Welcome to another episode of Real Talk about real estate, realtors, and real stuff. So today's topic is, if I can get it right, I wish I knew then what I know now. Okay, so I kind of did know. People told me, so I'd like to say I wish I would have listened to what people told me in my 20s and 30s.
Yes.
And did what they said, because it can change your life.
Yeah.
And one of those things is buying real estate.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody's shocked to hear that that is a suggestion that we have. But I mean, you bought real estate at a fairly young age. How old were you when you bought your first house, your duplex?
When was that? 2020, 3 years ago. So 27?
27. Yeah.
26?
I think I was about 30. I was 30 actually. It was-
26.
Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty young. You
Yeah.
listened.
Well, I think it's because I was in real estate because I was surrounded by it, I wasn't as fearful of it.
Right.
And I knew about buying the duplex situation. I had some coaching along the way. So there was definitely a lot that got me to that point. If I think I wasn't a realtor and I was just listening to family members, they probably would have scared me out of it.
Yeah,
so I'm very
probably
grateful. Yeah.
Probably true.
Yeah.
So if we're not your family member, you should still listen to us.
Yes.
'Cause
Well,
we are-
I don't think family is always the best people to listen to. You really need to surround yourself with a wide array of people who are doing, because just because your parents didn't buy young or didn't invest aggressively doesn't mean that that's not the path that you should take.
Right.
And so maybe you should consult somebody who is a successful realtor or a successful investor and see what they have to say.
Absolutely. 100%. And here's some proof. I would just like to take a little stroll back in time in Chico, California, when my dad
long ago.
my dad bought his first house when he was 20. And
That's young.
That is, and it was on Wisconsin Street in Chapmantown, and he bought it for $4,750, and this was in 1957. So the cool part is that the owner carried paper for him. He put $500 down.
Wow.
And the interest rate was 6%. So actually lower than it is now. But then when I had written an article about the history of sales in Chico, and in 2019, I had looked up the value of that property today. So he bought it for $4,700, let's say. And in 2019, it was worth $219,000.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that, 4 years ago? So I did some research, and today that same home would be worth $275,000.
Wow.
So in just a 4-year period of time, the value went up roughly $50,000.
Yeah. And had he held on to that house his whole life, it'd be paid off.
Yeah.
And
Well,
worth
most
a
of
lot
his
more.
properties he did hang on to.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so
Not
most
that
of them
one.
he's had paid off for 110 years. But
Yeah.
and so then I kind of looked at a property that we bought in California Park in 2014, and it's 1,600 square footer. We paid $283 for it.
That's bizarre.
In 2014, that was not that, well, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Doesn't feel
seem
that
like,
long.
Right, exactly. So we paid $283 for it. And we did put about $50,000 updating it. Even though it wasn't a very old house, we wanted to have like new counters and new flooring. But we sold it in 2020 for $445. So after everything was said and done, we made $150,000 roughly on that house in 6 years' time.
Yeah.
That is a great investment.
Yeah, that's a great investment.
And we lived in it for part of that time. And then, so I went to Zillow, and they have it valued at $515 today. So,
Okay.
and that was in 2020.
That makes sense.
So
to
3
me.
years now, it's worth $515.
Yeah, because I think that wasn't Broke Agent Media. Byron Lazine was saying on one of his podcasts that almost every single major market in the nation has gone up 30% since 2020.
Right.
30% in 2.5 years.
And prices are still fairly stable. Yeah. They're not dropping.
They're not dropping. They're really not. There's homes that we're pricing right now that you can go back for a full year and say, yep, that's still what there's still really good comps from a year ago, which was not the case the last 3 years. You really had to have like the last 60 days of sales to be able to comp a house.
Right.
And now you can go further back because they're so steady.
So where's the lesson in all of this?
Hold on to your assets.
Well, hold on to your assets, but first you got to get one.
Got to get one.
So
And you got to hold on
if
to
you're
it.
struggling and you think, because we do hear, oh my gosh, the market is going to crash.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's going to crash. I don't believe it's going to crash. We might see an adjustment. I mean, there's all sorts of different forecasts about what's going to happen in the market. Some people think that the rates are going to stay about where they are. Maybe they'll go down next year, but nobody really knows. At the end of the day, housing is, you have to pay for it anyways. It's the cost of shelter. So why would you not, if you can afford it, if you do qualify, why wouldn't you? It's a set expense if you get a fixed rate,
Yep.
right? So you know exactly what your payment's going to be. So if you can qualify for that payment, why would you not buy it? And then you want to stay in it. Well, I mean,
3 to 5 years.
yeah,
And-
3 to
and
5 years. I would say
hold on
5 years just to be more conservative
Yeah.
on that number. And in that time, you should gain equity
Yeah.
and make money.
Yeah.
So yes, the lesson could be just buy something because you have to live in something anyway. And then hopefully in 5 years, it's very likely that it'll be more than what you paid for it.
Yep.
And don't worry so much about if the market's going to crash.
You know, people just want to like pick everything apart. And when you start getting into the nitty gritty like that, it paralyzes you and you just don't do anything.
Right.
And if you're able to take a step back from that and say, okay, bigger picture, can I afford the monthly payment? Do I have the down payment and closing costs? Do I have a steady income, steady employment? And how long am I going to be in this home? And if the market crashes, guess what? Don't sell. Just ride it out.
Yeah,
because
as
the
long as you
market-
still have your job.
As long as you still have your job, yes.
Yeah.
But chances are, I mean, I guess if when worse comes to worse, obviously you would have to just get into something a lot less expensive. But rents are also really high. So if you have a mortgage that's $3,000 and then you're going to pay $2,400 for a way lesser house a month, like is there room to maybe cut out other expenses
Right.
so you can keep your home?
Keep your home.
I mean, I don't know.
That
It's
is
just-
your best asset.
It's your best asset.
Greatest
It's
asset.
making money. You do have to pay for it monthly, but it's making money.
But you're
while
going to pay
it's
for it
sitting there.
anyway.
You're going to
just
pay
gonna
for something.
Right.
And
Somebody
rents are
else's
just so
rent.
expensive right now. And especially like people listening to this that are not in Chico, it's even more expensive everywhere else. We're in a pretty affordable economy here in Chico and California compared to the rest of the state.
And right now, job rates, I mean, the
The unemployment level is so low.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of job demand. So if you are looking for a job, like there's a lot of jobs out there. So we don't see unemployment going up at this point. But that's what the government wants to happen, because then if unemployment goes up, inflation will lower and then we can bring rates down.
I will say that a lot of things cost more money than
Yes.
they used to. I mean,
Hence the
I
inflation.
stood staring at peanut butter the other day for 10 minutes.
You got to go to New Earth and get the one that
I
you
know.
squeeze
Yeah.
yourself. It's a lot cheaper.
I wasn't there and I wanted organic. And I'm like, well, maybe I just won't get it. It was like $11.
Or Trader Joe's. Yeah,
Trader Joe's has a great one for
The best peanut
$7.
butter.
But I just wasn't there. I was at Rayleigh's, okay?
Oh,
I was
Rayleigh's.
buying the Justin's and it was like $12.
And Justin's has palm oil in it. It's not even.
Okay. Well, we're getting a little off topic.
I'm just saying. Justin's looks, it's all about their branding.
Okay, but my
Don't buy
point
Justin's.
is that if you make $20 or $30 an hour, you could spend 1 hour's worth of work to buy two bars of Justin's.
Two bottles of Justin's peanut butter.
Jars of peanut butter.
Oh, jars.
Maybe I need a drink. Sergio, our famous painter at SM Painting, just brought a bottle of
Where
wine
is
over
that
to us,
wine?
so maybe we need to start drinking that.
You used to have 3 bottles of Vouv on your desk.
No,
Where's
I
that?
only have one.
You used to have
I
3.
know, not anymore. They went somewhere.
Down the hatch.
Yeah, one of the sayings that we had, we were just in Maui, poor Maui. But anytime we would finish our drink, it was, give it a home.
Give it a home.
Give it a home. We're leaving. Give it a home.
That's
Slam
funny.
A glass of wine like we were slamming a shot. Okay, so
we can cut
getting
that
a little
out.
off topic. Hey, it's home related. Give it,
It
a
is
home.
home related. Everyone needs a home, including the Vouv. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so that's our kind of 2 cents on. Well, okay. Actually, I want to know something that you and I had talked about 3, 4, 5, probably 5 years ago was opening up a retirement account really young, even if you can only put a little tiny bit a month.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the compound interest on it, by the time, like, I think I was 23 when we had that conversation. And you're like, by the time you're my age, that $100 a month is going to compound, or I think I was doing $25 a month at that point.
Okay.
So I wanted to just touch on that for anybody who's young and listening and thinking about opening up. You have your 401k maybe. I don't know what else. Like, you have employee benefits, but maybe you want to look into opening up a Roth IRA to put into on your own. You don't only have to do what your company matches. There's other options too.
That is so important too. I mean, that will grow so fast. And don't cash it out.
Again, just leave it.
Just leave it.
Just like real estate.
Just leave it.
Let it ride.
Definitely do that. And I know some people that maybe got an inheritance from a grandmother or had some kind of a settlement from some random accident that they're okay from. But I know somebody that got a little bit of money, turned around and bought a house with it.
Yeah.
It's like,
and now that money's growing.
19 years old. Yeah. 20 years old. That is
genius.
Like total genius, because a lot of people at that age, including myself, would just be new clothes, new car. I'm going to go on a trip. I'm going to buy junk that I don't need.
Yep.
So if you happen to be the recipient of funds that you are unaware that show up in your life, you should buy a house. And it doesn't have to be, it could be $30,000. I mean, one of my listings just accepted an FHA loan with 3.5% down. So sellers are starting to accept those FHA buyers. So it's totally possible to do that. Yeah.
And that's how I got the duplex. I got a $30,000 inheritance, put it in. I did 3.5% down, got the seller covered my closing costs. And so I think I got in for 20 or something like that, like 22,000. Put a little bit of money into it, but it's worth like $150,000 more now than when I bought it.
In what, 3 years time?
3 years.
Yeah.
So that 30,000 is now.
I mean, let's go worst case scenario. It doesn't go up in value. Your payment stays the same. You still have your job.
You have a roof over your head.
You're probably paying more than you would in rent. But in 5-10 years time, it's definitely going to go up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, well, I guess I should never say the word definitely, but
most likely history shows it goes up.
Yeah,
and you have a roof over your head. You have your own, like, you get to say you're a homeowner. You get the tax write-offs, like all those things. You get to do whatever you want to the house. You can have a roommate who helps you pay your mortgage.
Bingo. Yeah.
That's what people should do if they lose their jobs. Instead of get a roommate.
Right.
Unless you have a bunch of kids and can't do that.
Sure.
But anyways, good option. All right, we're a little bit all over the place today.
Well, we are, but it's...
what else do you wish you knew then?
Oh, yeah, that was
what you know
topic,
now.
huh?
What else?
Well, that's a whole nother subject.
What about in real estate? Like, is there anything you wish you would have done differently early in your career?
Ooh, my real estate career. No, I just worked really hard all the time, every weekend, walking 5 miles uphill both ways
in the snow
to put up my open house signs. So no, I mean, I can't think of anything. I was fortunate enough to be raised by a realtor, so I did hear a lot of the stories. My mom moved 18, I think, times before I was even 18 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah, so she would buy and sell real estate. Fix it up a little bit, turn around, sell it, move on to the next one.
Make some money.
Yeah. So I wished I would have done more of that earlier on. I just don't think you can start too soon.
Yeah.
If you can swing, I mean, again, going back to worst case. I mean, worst case is you lose your job, you lose the house, you get foreclosed on.
Yes.
Nobody wants that. And I'm not advocating that you buy something that you cannot afford.
Right.
But we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
Weird things could happen that we can't even, that never has happened in history. So yes, something horrible could happen. Yeah. Something horrible could happen every single day, you know? Yes. Anything like that. Walking across the street. You never know what's going to happen.
Pandemic hits.
So I think the fear is, get over the fear. Just don't be afraid. If you, again, I just can't stress enough, if it's something that you can afford and you qualify for,
do it.
Don't think that the market's going to crash next year, because people have been saying that for a while now.
Oh my gosh. For 10 years, people have been saying the market's going to crash.
Anytime now.
And then you just missed out on 30% equity or appreciation in the home you could have bought in 2020.
And going back to the worst case, okay, you get you lose your job, you get foreclosed on, you have to go back and rent. I mean, the last time there was a big old round of foreclosures, it did take like 3 years and people started buying again. I think foreclosure stays on your record if I'm right, 7 years.
Yeah.
And again, not advocating
No.
that you buy something you cannot afford. No. But I just like to go, what's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? And then what's in the middle, which is the most likely scenario? Most likely, prices are sort of going to stabilize. You're not going to make $1 million in 2 years' time. You're not. You're probably
especially
just
right now.
slowly like a 3 to 4% increase in value every single year. It's the most likely scenario.
Yes. And I think, what does Warren Buffett say? Like when people are fearful, that's when you buy. And then when people are not fearful, that's when you sit back. It's not that, obviously, he says it very eloquently, but it's true that when the pandemic started, there was a lot of fear of what was going to happen. But we being in real estate, we were seeing transactions happen. I felt like transactions weren't slowing down. I felt steady in my income. So I took the leap and bought a house sight unseen when no one else was buying. Like I didn't have any competition for that house with other investors. There was like, there's no way I'm going to get this FHA first.
You would have not gotten
I would have not gotten
it.
It was like the 3 months of the beginning of the pandemic when people were fearful and investors didn't know, rightfully so, what was going to happen. So they weren't buying. So I think that's just
so the seller was willing to work with you because for whatever reason they needed to sell and they were afraid that no one would want to buy their home.
Yeah.
So,
I don't remember why they were selling either. I think just older folks wanting to get out, but I didn't get my offer accepted for 2 weeks. So I don't know whose fault that was, but at the end of the day, it was just, I think if the media is trying to fear monger you, that's when you need to jump in because other buyers are sitting on the sidelines and that's when you can take advantage of the situation or negotiate better.
And the media will always, honestly, we're sitting here trying to figure out a topic that's clickbait for you to listen to this podcast. That's what this is all about. Yeah. It's got to be dramatic.
Yes.
It's got to be like, oh, I got to see what the news is going to say. And really, when you read down the headlines, the headline is not necessarily what's actually happening in the article.
That's why people keep saying the market's going to crash because that's clickbait. And there's a guy on YouTube who you can literally go through his videos. It's really interesting to see his videos from 2 or 3 years ago saying this is why the market's going to crash. Like you just steer 10,000 people away from buying a home who trust your videos. I don't know.
And you know what though? Maybe it wasn't their time. I think I was telling you, Logan Motoshami said, if you're asking, should I buy a house? Then you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. And I somewhat disagree with that because I do think that you should ask professionals. But his point is that you need to be sure that you feel comfortable. So,
right.
And if you're not feeling comfortable, if you are feeling like something's going to happen and you're going to be stressed out about it, then it's not for you.
And how do you know if you're feeling comfortable? Like you have to get rid of the fog. Yes. Get clarity. You need to talk to a lender. You need to figure out, okay, exactly how much is my mortgage going to be? Or, roughly how much within $100. And you need to know how much money you're going to need to spend on the home bringing in. And then you do have the unknowns of home ownership after you close escrow. There could be things. So you do need to have that nest egg, like safety net of savings. But that's how you get clarity is by really boiling down what the numbers look like in a transaction.
Well, I think we beat that horse pretty good.
Yeah. If it's not clear by now.
We would never beat a horse, by the way. I hate these little sayings that I didn't think twice about. And I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible.
Beat the dead horse.